Hello, and welcome to this DBW Analytics webinar. And as you can read, it's all about Power BI connectors for SAP and how we can connect our SAP data directly and control it from within Power BI. A little bit of background and the agenda first. The idea is to give you some flavor of the types of activities we can do using our tools and Power BI. So a few introductions and that type of thing, but then into the nitty gritty. Well, this is pretty much a hands-on demo-led webinar. So there'll be as few slides as we can, but we can share the slides later, and of course we'll share the video with anybody who's registered. So after the introductions, just a brief outline on what the Power BI connector does with DBW Analytics. And then number 3, the item here, we've got a really exciting new tool to introduce, the Flow tool. We're really excited. Hopefully you'll get why we are. And this gives so much more flexibility to your extracts from SAP. Following on from that, looking at dashboards and how we can support them in Power BI, how we can automate the flows to Power BI portal, and then what's coming next down the line. So a little housekeeping, a few introductions. My name is Ian James. As you can see, I'm with the commercial team here at DBW. My colleague Darren Walton, who's not usually as blurry as that on his photo, probably will stay quiet. I can't promise that, but usually we can if we keep him busy with questions, he will. So by all means, in the chat, write out any questions, and he'll do his best to answer you, and of course to correct me when I make mistakes. So what's it all about? Well, it's about getting connected from SAP into Power BI. And before we go down there, let's just talk about DBW Analytics. You can see on the left-hand side here that we connect obviously to Power BI and also to Tableau in terms of the visualization tools. But we also connect to other platforms, data blending, ETL platforms, if you like, such as Alteryx and KNIME and DataIQ, and even to systems platforms, if you like Snowflake, where you can do look after your data lake, etc., etc. So we can connect directly from SAP using our technology into all of the above. But obviously today we're going to focus on Power BI. When we talk about Power BI and SAP, what can we connect to? Well, there's a lot we can. Pretty much anything on the ABAP stack is possible for sure. So certainly your ERP systems from the old R3 systems, 46C I think is the first version that I worked on, and we can support that. So certainly we go back a long way there, and all the way through to probably the most common ECC, and then all flavors of S/4HANA. So whether it be on premise or on cloud, we can support those and connect to it and bring your data into Power BI. Equally, if you've got BW or BW on HANA or flavors of that, we can cover off there. And indeed in the business suite, so they're becoming more legacy applications such as CRM or SRM and things, SAP systems like that we can connect into. What's coming soon are the cloud solutions. We already have up and running SAP Integrated Business Planning, IBP. That's the red one you see in the middle of the screen there. But we've got on the roadmap, as you'll see later, connectivity into SAC, so SAP Analytics Cloud, and also things like SuccessFactors, Ariba, Concur, C4C, Marketing Cloud, etc., etc. Okay, so it's quickly growing, but a lot of the general use cases on the ABAP stack we can cover off already. Now, in terms of our products, the way our product works is it's an add-in. It's an extra piece of software that communicates and builds a bridge between Power BI and your SAP systems. And we can do that in 2 ways. Firstly, on the left-hand side in orange here, you can see we could do it at the desktop level, and a lot of what I'll show you today is at that level. So it's very practical for even business users, and hopefully you'll see how usable it is for people with not as much IT knowledge to get their data in the format they want in the Power BI products. But also it's very robust because we have a server version which supports scheduling to via the Power BI gateway into the Power BI portal. Okay, and I'll show you a little bit of that as well later. So let's get started. I said it was demo driven. Let's show you demo then. So this is all about just getting started and how this tool works within Power BI. So if you'll bear with me, I'm just going to flick across to a Power BI screen. Hopefully you'll recognize Power BI desktop here. And here's where you go get the data. So in this case, we're going to get data from SAP. We're going to get it using obviously the DVW tools. And all we need to do is within Power BI, select DVW, and immediately, because I've got the add-in on my machine, I can now connect in to the middleware, if you like, our XCS, our cross connector for SAP console. Now within the console, we store connections, and as you'll see also data flows that we can utilize and call on demand to pull data into Power BI. So if I edit here, you'll be able to see a few of those. Here's some flows, here's some connections. These are tables, but equally they could be BW queries or T codes, etc., within SAP. But let's start a new one and you'll get the idea. So if I create a new data set, then when I click here, it'll push me into a console, into the console, the XCS console, which is where I build my connection into SAP. You can see that in terms of the way we can connect into SAP, we've got all those systems, of course, but the type of objects we can connect into is quite deep as well. So we've got also all manner of BW tools that we can connect into, connect to table data tools, T codes, even spools, so the print queue. Report files are AL11 files. A lot of SAP outputs can be routed to AL11 files. In HANA, we can look at the cloud side and on premise, and that's that IBP piece I was mentioning earlier. Okay, so lots of possibilities in terms of objects here, and again, this is an ever-growing list. We're really working hard to extend this list so that we can hit other objects within SAP. Again, we'll talk about that a little later, what the roadmap is there. I'm going to use a table data read here, and you can see I've been practicing. So here's my Mara table. If I don't know the table, by the way, I can search for it within the data dictionary within SAP, but I know I want to see Mara, so I'll hit the double ticks. And that'll talk to SAP and bring back the metadata for that table. You can see these are all the columns in the table, all the fields. There are quite a few. We don't have to have them all, of course, in our output. We can pick the ones we want. So, okay, material makes sense. Maybe created on, I'll pick the first few, and maybe material type and material group. Okay, this can be as long or short as you like, the list. Equally, we can if we've got dates, for instance, there are a different way that SAP presents those dates. There's an internal presentation, which is year, month, day. But there's a perhaps more human presentation, which puts it as day, month, year, etc., etc. So let's turn that on. You'll see what I mean. We can utilize that SAP functionality is the point. Equally, we can filter. We've picked which fields we want, but the data we want, which rows we want, can be filtered. So we can say, hey, look, let's pick a particular material type. I'm going to add a filter, and if I know which filter I'm looking for, I could enter that in manually, or I can click here, and it will give me a list of the possible filters. So these are all the material types that SAP, or my SAP system has. Let's pick one of these, finished goods here. Say OK, and we'll filter on there. Now, embedded in the tool, there are lots of settings. First, to make sense, it's very sensible to start small. So you can see the maximum number of records is just 200. I know it's a small table and I'm fairly safe, so I'm going to bring all the records back. Lots of different possibilities in here. You can have a scan through, but what I do like to turn on is descriptive names. If I don't do that, then I'll get the technical names, which can be useful, but I prefer descriptive in this context. Let's look at a preview then. So this is all within the console. I'm making sure that the data that I'm looking for and passing into Power BI is exactly as I want. And here it is. It's got the columns I need, the data I need, and you can see those descriptive names at the top. So all I need to do now is save this. So let's give it a name. It's Mara. Why not call it Mara 111? And say save. So I've saved that connection to that particular configuration from the Mara table within the console, and that's ready to be consumed in Power BI whenever I like. So now if I close that and go back to Power BI, I can look in my data sets, and in here we see that Mara, I hope it is, Mara 111, there it is. If I click on here, you see it's going to run, it's making a call back to my middleware, to my XCS console. It's running that connection and it's bringing the data that I've configured back into Power BI. Now I can just bring that in and use it as Power BI data. Once it's here, it's Power BI data. Alternatively, I can use the Power Query editor, the Power Query console within Power BI to make a call as well. So I can do it more constructively and combine it with other data sets perhaps. So for instance, what can I do? Let's create a parameter. Okay, now I'm going to, if you remember, we filtered on material type. So let's make a material type parameter. Now what this will enable us to do is not only to pull the data as it stands, hard-coded if you like, but have some flexibility. Make this a dynamic call. Okay, so instead of, if you remember, I picked the FERT material type. Maybe I could add a few more. Maybe semi-finished goods, halves. I guess that'll do. I can pick whichever of these I want to be the default. Let's just leave it at FERT for now and say OK. Okay, so I'm creating a little, and this is entirely within Power BI, creating a parameter. Now what's great is that once you have the DVW add-in, we can add a query. Okay, and that query can make a call back to the middleware. Again, we type DVW. It's a little bit like an Excel command if you're not familiar with Power Query. So, but it's just like a Power. It is a Power Query, but if you're more familiar with Excel, obviously it looks like that. And we can say, hey, that's the function I want. Go get some DVW data from XCS. Now all I need to do now is tell it where I want to get that data from. Okay, and obviously my connection that's saved on XCS is Mara 111. But I want to pass back the other way my parameter. Okay, my parameter is going to be all about material type, and we're going to say make that material type value equal to, and I'm going to add in my parameter now. And here it is. There's the parameter I created, mat type. And now all I need to do is return, and it will make that call. Now, not much changed here. In fact, nothing's changed because the parameter value was FERT. You can see I'm getting finished goods as the return here. If I close and apply this though, I can now start to build a visualization. Okay, it's just going to run that obviously as I apply those changes. But what I see on the right hand side now is my query, and here it is with the values of the fields, the columns that are available. Perhaps I want to create a pie chart. Let's do something simple. It could obviously be a whole dashboard. But if we now look at materials, let's count the number of materials. So if I make those values, you see I got a count of materials, and I'm going to see how they break down in particular material groups. Okay, so we can start to analyze and build our very easily our dashboard here. But because we've parameterized this, we can do even more. We can go back in and say, edit the parameter. Here's the parameter I created. And I can say, okay, I don't want FERTs now. I want to change the material group. So what I'm doing now is I'm passing back a parameter and I'm controlling that connection within XCS from the front end here in Power BI. So it's passing back the different material group. And now instead of getting FERTs, I get the other material group Hour. Okay, so lots of flexibility. And obviously that's a very, very simple example. You can build on that. And those that you have more experience, although it's pretty quick to pick up, Power Query is really powerful for doing that type of work and building in complexity. And now you've got the ability to bring SAP data into. Okay, back to the slides. So this is the bit you've been waiting for. We've been waiting for, certainly to, you're the very first, you're very highly honored. You're the first to hear about our flow tool. So this is a new piece of technology from DBW Analytics, and we're really excited about it. And here's how it works, what it is. Basically, it allows you within our console, within our XCS console, to build combinations of extracts from SAP and indeed from other sources. And we can pull from as many SAP objects as we like, as you'll see in a second. Also as many non-SAP objects, bring that data together, use other tools to combine and aggregate and cleanse the data, and then make that flow available to Power BI, just as that single connection you've just seen for the table is made available, and we can consume it in exactly the same way. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. That's what we're excited about. Let's show you how it works. So I'm going to start here. This is actually the console itself. You can see I've created some flows here. And if I right click, I can create a new flow. Okay, and again, that takes me into a design window where I can start to build. Okay, so we have SAP Read tools, and in here you'll recognize this list because it's the list you've just seen. So we've got the ability to pull data from SAP T-codes or tables, spool, HANA on-prem or in the cloud, AL11 reports, etc., and all sorts of BW, all manner of BW. Okay, I'm going to run a T-code. So I'm going to run a T-code directly into the console here. Again, I've been practicing, as you can see, so I'm going to use FBL3N, which is finance T-code. I asked the system to talk to SAP. It checks it's a proper system, and it brings back the parameter screen. Now you can see in here, company code, GL, transaction dates, even things like layouts are possible. Okay. What's nice is that we can also use the variants that we've stored over on SAP. So these are saved parameters on the SAP side that we can utilize from within the connector here. I'm going to use this variant here. I could use it as it is, but instead I'm going to just download it just to show you the values that have been stored on SAP, bring them across into the console. Now, because they're in the console, I can manually change this. So if I don't want company code 3000, I could change that if I like. Now, the really cool stuff starts now, because what we can do is we can design exactly what we do with the data that comes from SAP. And a lot of this is automated now within this tool set. So we say, okay, next let's run the T-code, and that is actually physically running FBL3N with those parameters, and it gives us a preview of what it's going to look like. And you can see this particular T-code has for each combination of GL and company code, it has a little mini table with some totals, and then it goes on to the next combination, and so on and so on. And it's it's okay. It's a reasonable output for SAP GUI, but it's not the prettiest, and it's certainly not the best for using with analytics. However, the tool automatically has started to color code some of these. You can see that in the headers here, it's recognized that these are header values, okay? And also there's a text here, okay? Now, it's chosen those and recognized those. If I don't like that, I can always change them, okay? I can remove them here, or I can go into the header fields and add other ones. You've got GL and company code, but I could add other things if I needed, okay? It's done a good job though, so it's picked the ones I want. It's also recognized the header for the table. So that's marked in yellow here. It's automatically blanked out anything with dashes or spaces. And also it's seen these total rows. Okay, so it's seen this little asterisk here and said, look, where this asterisk sits, I know that's a totals row and it's different from the other rows here. So I'm going to ignore those. I don't have to do that. I can edit that rule and bring them in if I prefer. But this is really great way of quickly getting to the data that you want to see. And as you see, if I preview that data, here it is, and it's in much more usable form. So your GL and company code have their own columns. Every other value, every other field has its own column too, and all the extras have been removed. If I confirm the design, I can even run it within the console itself, again, to check that we're in good shape, which we're not, of course. What did I do wrong there? You can see it's live anyway, that's good. Let's just try modify design again. Don't you just love it? Live, of course, this worked every time the last 100 times, but let's confirm design and run. It seems to be a bit happier this time around. There we go. Okay, and there's the data within the console itself. Okay, but that's just the start. That's very similar to what we've just done with the table. It's a single connection to a single object, if you like, within SAP. What's great about the flow tool is everything else you can do. So we can say, hey, let's go and get another input. I'm going to get a CSV file that I prepared earlier. And this CSV file has a list of company codes. Okay, so I'm going to bring those company codes in, that list, and I'm going to pass them into the filter anchor here. So this input here, and what that allows me to do is pass them in as filters. So the tool itself will understand those as filters and apply them. So instead of having that company code 3000 that you may remember came across from the variant, I can now run the T code multiple times with different values that have been provided by the CSV file. And if I look in here, of course, it's one of those days, isn't it? The way it's going to be. Second time lucky. I'm going to give it one more go and then I might skip ahead to one I prepared earlier. There we go. So we can see that in our CSV file, there were 3 different company codes. They've been split. So that means run the T code 3 separate times. That's what the red tool here does. It does all that work that we configured, puts all the data together, and we get data for all 3 company codes being passed out as the output for our flow. So you can see 1000 somewhere down here, hopefully 2000 and 3000. Okay. But this course is lots and lots more we can do. So let's look at the transformations. We can transform our data now. We can start to manage our data, manipulate it, maybe combine it with other data sets. So for instance, if we use some aggregation, we can take the data that's coming from our T code, pass it into this tool, and we can say, right, okay, what I really want to do is the business areas, they were numerics. I'd like their text. Okay, so what I'd like to do is just get a list, a unique list of these business areas, and I'd like to pass it and go get the text for those business areas. Okay, now What this tool does, because it's aggregating, it will just then create a unique list of business areas. I can then pass that to my table tool. Now my table tool, I can say, right, okay, I know in SAP there's a table, and you can go look this up if you don't know, or you can go search for it using our tool here. There's a table that gives me the texts for any given business area. Here they are. So you can see for a business area, here are their descriptions. Now, obviously, I'm speaking English, you can tell, so I'm going to stick there, but you can choose whichever language is available within your system. And then what we're going to do is, rather than get all the business areas or all the data from this table, I'm just going to get the ones that are relevant. So I'm trying to be as efficient as possible. I'm just passing through dynamically a list of business areas. Go get their text. Okay. Now this is a simple example, but of course, if you multiply that up to different scenarios, you can imagine the saving you get by focusing that extract and make sure you filter on only the data you need. Okay. Let's look at other possibilities. So if we want to manipulate our table, we've got all sorts of table join tools, so we can join our data together and transpose it if we like, or change it around. But we're just going to join it together. So we're going to join our T-code data to our text data. Get there eventually. A little slow on the uptake. It might be my machine, but you can see my business area. I'm going to connect to the output for the text. Remember that technical name there. I can even at this point start to see what the output would be, left and right joins, of course. So I probably want most of these, but I noticed that this was blank maybe, and I think this one was blank too. There's no point in having business area twice. I can even rearrange these so we can put them in an order that makes more sense. I can rename them even, if it'll let me do that. I can even rename them, so I can say business area, and we'll call this one business area description. Okay, and we're nearly there. Now the last thing in my flow is my destination. Okay, I'm just going to check. I'm just a bit worried that just threw an error again. So it's just going to be one of those days, I think. So the next one is my destination, and I'm going to focus on sending to Power BI. Okay, because obviously that's what we're talking about. I'm going to take the join data and pass it into Power BI. Now you're all going to have to cross your fingers for me, because now I'm going to run this and see what happens. So in theory, we're taking a list of filters. We're running a T-code multiple times. One of those values coming out is business area. So we've found unique values for business area. Pass that into the SAP table and said, hey, give me the text for those business areas, joined them, and prepared a data set that's ready to be used over on Power BI. Okay, and here it is. You obviously all crossed your fingers well, because here's the output exactly as we need. And you can see we've got business area and their descriptions. Okay, again, a very simple example, but you can build huge complexity into this. I hope you can see. The last thing to do once we're happy with it is to save the file. Okay, and so let's call this flow demo 001. Say save. And now we can flick over to Power BI, because again, if we go to the data sources, we go to DBW, then within DBW data flows here, we can see our flow demo 001. And if I click on here, it's going to run that flow, and it's going to give me a preview of the data and allow me to load it into Power BI. Now, once it's loaded into Power BI, I can build my analytics. I can refresh that data absolutely any time I like. And again, I can use Power Query to call that directly and build it into my Power Query analyses, my workflows within Power Query, and parameterize it. So you can see the real flexibility there, that you can build end-to-end workflows within the Flow tool and give a ready-to-use data output for your users, from business users upwards. Okay, so that's the Flow tool. Hopefully you see the power of it, why we're excited, and hopefully you can see and started to have little light bulbs that are of ideas of how you might use it for use cases yourself. Okay, let's move on. Section 3 around dashboards. Just a few slides here just to show you really before we actually get into dashboards how this all connects together, just to give you a picture of what we've been doing really. So you can see there are 3 elements, if you like. On the left hand side here are the SAP sources. This is where we're reading from. You saw all the possibilities, and we mentioned we've got other things coming like OData connectivity for those SAP cloud solutions, but also BAPI and RC function module possibilities, and many, many more that are coming soon, as well as the ones that are already there in terms of the objects on SAP that we can connect to. We spent a good bit of time in there, both building connections and using the Flow tool console. So that's the XES console there. And the way that we use that is on demand, because we're pulling data using the add-in within Power BI to communicate with XES, to call the connection or the flow, which will then run the necessary calls back to SAP, do all the work that you've seen there to prepare that data ready for consumption over on Power BI. And as we've seen, we can control the parameters. So it's not only a one-way street. It's not only a call and get what you're given. We can control exactly what we want. So maybe we want to send back and say, hey, give me today's data. So therefore we can do a calculation on the Power BI side, push back today's date, and use that as a parameter to get deltas. Okay. We've said that this runs on desktop. You've seen that, but in a few minutes we'll show you over on server that this works on the Power BI portal also, so you can really expand this and make it a tool for all. For the technophiles amongst you, this is just a little background information. It promise not too much depth, but the fundamental here is to call out is that the way that our connectors work, and this is not just our Power BI connector, but all our other connectors, is they connect in the same way, the exact same way that the SAP GUI or Analysis for Office or those other SAP front-end tools connect. So we're connecting in to the application server of SAP via an RSC protocol, but because we're connecting via a dialog process into the application server, we need credentials. We need to log on with our username and password. Maybe it's single sign-on, that's okay too, but you need to identify yourself. At that point, the SAP server applies your authorizations, it applies your safety belts, which means what we do, whether it be in Power BI or all our other connectors, is safe, secure. We can do no harm to SAP. After that, we call, for the most part, standard SAP function modules, which do the work to pull and manipulate the data into the way we need, whether it be an SAP transaction code or pulling data from an SAP table, a BW query, etc., etc. Okay, so very safe, very secure. Okay, a little bit more then. So SAP T codes, a little demo again, back on the desktop version of Power BI. So what I'm going to do is, this is a one I built earlier. So it just gives you another idea of what we can do. This is a little more expanded version, more complex, not too bad, but a little bit more to it. So you'll hopefully forgive me for built it beforehand. But you can see I've got that idea as parameters. But again, we've got so different parameters for different values. So company code, posting date, to and from, GLs, okay? And what we're going to do is use these parameters to pass back to that FBL3N transaction code. So what we're effectively doing, or what we have here, is a tool that can run SAP T codes using Power BI as a front end. Okay, because all we need to do then is use a little bit of Power BI magic to combine those different parameters, and we can create a filter that our tool, our XCS tool, will understand. Okay, and building our filters this way gives us a little bit more flexibility. Notice, so we can say that we want it to be equal to a certain company code. We want a range of dates and account numbers. Okay, this is the between piece here. And we're going to pass that back in a query. Just go one step here, in a query against FBL3N. So you can see there, FBL3N test 002, and I've passed in my filters. Here they are. So this is that two-way piece of work. I'm passing the filters from Power BI to the XCS console. It understands them, applies them to FBL3N, the T code, makes that run, talks to SAP, does all the work, and then provides the data back over onto the Power BI side. And once you're in Power BI, you can do all sorts of things. So once a couple of small changes, for instance, maybe we want to change the type of a certain field to date or to number, just to help. We can obviously combine with other data sets. We can add calculations. We can do whatever we want within the Power BI and the Power Query piece here. What's nice then is that if I just pop out of here, we can build off the back of that dashboards. Okay, so the back end you've just seen, this is the presentation that your users will see, that you will see if you wish. It can be updated at any time. So all we need to do is refresh the data and you'll get up-to-date data as it stands. But equally, we can convert and we can say, hey, let's edit those parameters. And instead of using maybe company code 3000, I want to use company code 1000. I can change the dates, etc., etc. But that now will make a call back to SAP via the console. It will apply those new parameters, run the T code, and pass the data in over onto the Power Query side. It will do all the work and present a new updated dashboard that is parameterized fully from and controlled fully from within Power BI. Okay, and there it is. So you can see we can build really dynamic, reactive dashboards within Power BI very, very easy, very, very quickly. Okay, a couple more slides. And this is just about really the Power BI portal. As I said, everything you've seen so far has been on the desktop, but it is possible to push this to an enterprise level, if you like, using Power BI portal. And especially things like those dashboards can be published across the portal. The way it works is sort of in a parallel world. What we've seen so far is the top layer here. So it's SAP to XCS to Power BI. So that's at the desktop level. All we need to do in terms of server is to have an equivalent layer above or below it, whichever way you want to look at it. But we can publish our connections, our flows across into our server version of XCS. That will communicate with your enterprise gateway for Power BI, which in turn can schedule loads into the Power BI portal. Of course, you will have already published your analyses, your reports and dashboards across from Power BI desktop into portal. And then the schedule will kick off daily, hourly, whatever's necessary to update your dashboard, let's say, using the connections and the flows that you've built over on XCS, which of course will pull the data from SAP. so you can have a continually updated set of dashboards and reports on a schedule that suits you and is very, very usable, obviously, therefore, for business users. Just to cover off a few technicalities, look, yeah, we've mentioned scheduling. Absolutely, that's possible on the standard mode within the Power BI gateway. Single sign-on is possible. Deltas are possible within the Power BI piece. And obviously, as with all our tools, I'll stress it again, we absolutely respect all the governance and controls, authorizations, and safety belts that are built into your SAP system. I will say it again, we can do no harm. So finally, demo number 4, let me just show you a quick idea of how that might hang together. If I can see where I'm trying to look there, yeah, the console. So if I just turn on my my list, this is, you can see, is in my local. Up the top right here, you can see we're in local, but I can switch to my server version. Okay, you didn't see much difference because I've published most of these, but in the server version, you have over here my connections. So I pushed over my connections and my flows into the server so they can be used and are visible there. Okay, now what we have over on Power BI is another dashboard. This is, as you can see, a material master data dashboard. It's built from a couple of tables within SAP. So it's on master data. The idea is to pick up, different groups, what's missing, what isn't. Well, you've got bad data, old data maybe. You can see pretty simple. Again, it's the same type of setup as you saw before. We've got a set of filters. We're looking at particular material types. We've got a whole list of materials and their master data. Okay. What we don't have here is their text because it's not stored on this table. So what I'm going to do is going to take this and create a list of materials, and I'm going to pass that back again using the material list to go get the texts that are relevant for me. So I've brought the text back from SAP, and then the last thing to do in Power BI is join the two together. So I get material numbers, all the master data together with their text in here. Okay. Now, so that's our dashboard here. As I say, the process is we've pushed across the necessary connections, the connections that you've just seen I've used within my dashboard. All I need now to do is to push across and publish my finished analyses here, my dashboard in this case, or reports. And all I need to do is to publish that across into my Power BI portal. I've done that already, so let's go across into Power BI. And you can see here is my connection. We can refresh this at any time. Okay, we just refresh it here, or set a schedule so it can be refreshed on a set schedule. And what we get as at a front end, and what can be made available to your wider user community, is exactly what we've just seen over on the desktop, except now it's over and usable by anyone in the organization with the right authorizations. Okay, so let's close out. What's on the roadmap? Well, obviously, on top of what we've just talked about, Flow Tool obviously is a big push for us, a big step forward. We're putting a lot of energy into it. It will expand in the tools that are available, the connectivity that's available in terms of the SAP systems, but also the objects that you can connect to. And you're also seeing on the screen now the type of objects and when we expect them to land in the near future, in the next few quarters. So coming very soon, for instance, are the ability to run Fiori apps. So if you're on S/4HANA, whether that be in the cloud or on-prem. There are lots and lots of Fiori apps that come, out of the box as part of that solution. You can leverage those, and soon we'll be able to leverage them straight into Power BI. We can always already do that in Alteryx and KNIME, as you can see, but that's coming soon. Using queries, so this is SQL1, SQVI, if you know those. What else for Power BI? Things like that BAPI functionality we mentioned, and also those cloud systems. Okay, so lots of expansion, lots of new initiatives and new functionality within our tool set. So lots to do. If you're interested, by the way, in the Flow tool, please let us know. It's not on general release just yet. It's coming very, very soon. We're the latter stages of beta testing. We will be reaching out to some of our current customers first, just to give them the opportunity to trial that. But if you are interested, please let myself, Darren, the team know that you are, and we'll note that and make sure you're high up on the list to get access as soon as that becomes available. If you are interested in our other tool set, so the non-Flow tool at the moment, but the rest of our functionality, then just for turning up today, thank you very much. We're happy to extend, instead of a 30-day trial, a 60-day trial for our software. Please just click on our website, dvwanalytics.com, and choose to select a free trial. I trust that you've been asking lots of questions of Darren, and he's been able to reply. But thanks for your questions. I'm going to give you 10 minutes back of your day. I'm going to cut it there. But if there are any follow-up questions, please don't be shy. You can contact us via the website and via our emails. Thank you very much for your attention, and bye-bye.